Hi everyone, welcome back to Trendancy's Chart of the Week. I'm Samantha Nelson, the Director of Client Success at Trendancy, and I'm back this week to dive deeper into our data on the war in Ukraine, the diplomatic tactics available to other countries to use in response, and the connection between public opinion on these topics and disinformation campaigns. If you missed my last chart of the week back in March, I definitely recommend heading over to Trendancy's YouTube channel and watching that first. But if you did happen to catch that, you'll remember that I walked through our data on disinformation and its connection both to COVID-19 vaccination status and views on Russia. One of the most powerful parts of the Trendancy platform is being able to track data and how it changes over time. So with that in mind, we are going to return to the same data this week and see how views on two tactics for dealing with Russia's aggression have changed since we last talked about it. During my last chart of the week, we talked about various options for dealing with Russia's aggression against Ukraine and highlighted the two most popular among American voters, sanctions and blocking oil sales. These continue to be the most popular when it comes to asking American voters how the European Union and the United States should be dealing with the situation currently. And it's important to note that both of these tactics are either currently being utilized or there are plans to utilize them by both the EU and the US. Now, last time we saw a clear difference in opinion when we broke down this data into demographic groups, with groups that are known to be vulnerable to disinformation campaigns being a lot less supportive of both of these tactics than those who are not. And in this case, we're talking about voters under 45, Black voters, and voters who are unvaccinated against COVID-19. On today's chart, you can see that nearly all the groups we're looking at saw a slight decrease in support since we last looked at the data. Now, this could be for many reasons, right? Maybe it's due to less news coverage on the war itself, or maybe it's the fact that these things are already starting to happen in real time. But the interesting thing here that holds up our hypothesis from March is that there continue to be large gaps in demographic groups, with those groups we know are targeted by disinformation campaigns continuing to be significantly less supportive than their counterparts. Voters under 45, Black voters, and unvaccinated voters on average allocate about 30 points less than voters over 45, white voters, and vaccinated voters, and sometimes more. Now, while we've seen a slight change across the board since the last time we looked at this data, that data point has not changed, and this has been consistent since the first time we looked at this data about 1 month ago. Now, obviously, disinformation is a huge topic, and how we deal with it both on a national and a global scale is up for debate and discussion. It was recently announced that the Department of Homeland Security is setting up a disinformation governance board, and one of their biggest goals is to counteract large disinformation campaigns coming out of Russia. Interestingly enough, a DHS spokesperson said that the department has been working to counteract the spread of false information for years, but like we're seeing on today's chart, clearly we're seeing the effects of these campaigns that are targeting American voters. How we deal with the spread of false information is going to be something that evolves over time, and certainly we're not going to be able to come up with a solution overnight. So that's why it's so important for us to keep track of this data and how it changes over time, so eventually we can see if these counteracting measures prove effective in the future. That's all for this week. To see more of our data in action, head over to trendancy.com. We hope to see you next week.